Welcome to Peak Performance Perspectives with Mark Talukdar, where we dive deep into the essential ingredients for a great life: health, wealth, and relationships. How do our past traumas influence our present reactions and interactions? What if you could transform your emotional blocks into powerful catalysts for growth? And how can awareness truly shift your life's direction? In today's episode, we dive deep with Andrzej, a coach who specializes in helping highly sensitive individuals and empaths navigate their emotional landscape. Discover how self awareness, practical techniques, and mindful energy work can help you overcome barriers and achieve your goals. Tune in for an inspiration conversation that promises to shed light on our path to emotional well being and personal success. Started. Hey, Andrzej, how are you doing?
Mark, thank you so much for having me. We're going to have fantastic conversation that will open eyes of the many what truly is big and that nothing is set in stone and everyone can change and use their time in best possible way.
Love it. Everybody is trying to get better. And I understand you're a coach for highly sensitive people called Tell me a little bit about that.
I coach so many different people nowadays that it's mind-boggling. It started with highly sensitive people because I'm a highly sensitive person as well. How did that started? When I was a kid, and that is the same for all highly sensitive people, there is an event that traumatize us to the point that we become super reactive to the environment. Instead of having 5 fingers, it seems like we have 50. So it's a double-edged. You can use it to help you, but it can be used to destroy you, especially if there are negative emotions around, because we have this tendency to sponge those emotions, and that is many times overwhelming. So I started to work with those people because I myself have been through those challenges. I have been on the battlefield getting battle scars, and guess what? I found ways to thrive. I've been from the West to the East, exploring different modalities, crossing paths with many different masters. I know what works and what doesn't, because all of that I have been testing on me. And as I mentioned, it all started with some trauma, right? For me, I was abused and bullied, even by my own family. For a kid, to be locked on the balcony is not a good experience, or making him watch pornographic movies when he was really young for a joke. It's not a good experience. So I started working with my own trauma, with my own limiting beliefs, with my own negative emotions. And once I started releasing that, I realized that energy that kept me locked in this place was like a chain with a huge iron ball that I had dragged around, like carrying a heavy backpack constantly. And
When did
once
you
I let it
realize that?
go,
When did you realize, at what point in life did you realize that this is a problem? This is causing me pain and it's causing limiting beliefs. When was that?
that is a very good question, because we are not aware of what we are not aware. And trauma is this invisible thing that in one point of our life we were not able to process. Our brain, as a defense mechanism, keeps that trauma locked, hidden deep within, similar that you'd have nail invisible in your foot. You don't see that, but it affects how you walk. So as a coping mechanism, your brain will affect how you walk, will affect your posture, and it will cause you to limp. So I didn't know I had those issues. I didn't know I was traumatized. Only when I started to process those emotions correctly in my body. Whoa, I didn't even know that there was something like that.
How did you
And that
start to process that?
there are countless ways you can do that. What I like to do is either work with internal organs or be aware where that emotion, trauma is hidden. For me, for example, it was the solar plexus, because I cared too much what other people think. And once I start processing that, and by that, I mean I was aware of that sensation. I didn't run, I didn't hide, I didn't use any cope mechanism. I embraced that feeling. I was open with it. I was aware of it. And then it started to process itself, because what you need to do is not interfere with the process. And many people do. They start to have thoughts. They start to judge the feeling, because again, the brain wants to protect you from pain. But as a consequence, we carry that pain all the time, and it's very heavy. It's literally causing us to attract more experiences that are traumatizing. And if you want to progress in life, you need to let go of that, because the energy that once held you back is propelling you into the future. And organically, the things you have been chasing for, the things that you always wanted, are coming now to you. And you don't have to do absolutely nothing, because once you are traumatized, you perceive reality through the lenses of that trauma. So you don't see the possibilities of abundance once the lenses are off. Wow.
Amazing. Once we have trauma, we process reality through the lens of the trauma. I love it. So let's talk about specifics, right? There are a lot of entrepreneurs who are listening to this who have gone through certain traumas in their life and has caused them to have imposter syndrome or limiting belief or fear of putting themselves out there. So let's go through some specific processes that you would recommend as a coach so that they can start to work on them and get some real actionable tips that can help them in real life. What would you say is the first step?
If you would be driving a car, but you don't look to the left, you don't look to the right, nor back or the front, you'd talk on the phone, you drink coffee, it would be no surprise that there would be an accident. The same thing is with life. All things start with awareness. Either habits or those layers that we use as a coping mechanism are triggered in our subconsciousness. So we need to cut them before that happens. But before we dive deep into the details how to do that, let's talk about entrepreneurs and business people for a while. Why do those people even go to why do those people in the first place go to do business and change the world? What I found is that they struggle significantly with their self-esteem. So they don't have self-esteem within, so they are trying to find it externally, and they expose themselves to the world and they grind. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's a lottery, because they are limited by this belief that their self-esteem is not enough. I am not enough to have success. And then even if you have the best tools, the best techniques, the best strategies, you're still not enough. It is like heading to the wall. Nothing you will do will work. So the most valuable item a businessman has is his brain. It's what's between the ears. And all of that, to a degree, have limiting beliefs, negative emotions. It's not only that we have been programmed by society, by our own experiences, but also by our ancestors' belief as well. If they haven't processed something correctly, it will be passed to us in our genes, and it will be our responsibility to work through that. If we fail, it will come to our children, and then they will have to face those demons in our place. So what you should do is, first of all, be aware. Start observing the mind. See if the mind is your friend or is it your enemy. See if you're using the mind or the mind is using you. And there will be patterns that repeat themselves. For example, let's say you want a to-do list and you have plenty of items. Ask yourself, why exactly are you doing to-do lists? Because you want to feel this rush of dopamine, because you have many things to do, you want to prioritize things. Mostly the underlying reason underneath that is that you're not enough. You're feeling you need to do all those things to be worthy. And it's literally a feeling like a dog chasing its own tail. You cannot win that process because you're in that process. Brain is like computer. It processes data, makes decision. If you have faulty software, no matter what input you do, the output will still be garbage.
I love that. I love that. But things need to be done, right? An entrepreneur has started a business. Business is a complex thing, especially when you're getting started from scratch. A lot of entrepreneurs start their journey at a later stage in life. Some of them have already had a little bit of financial success, have a family, have a job. They have very little time to be able to work on a business. So now they have a list of things they need to do. Sometimes they don't simply have a choice to say, I'm not going to chase this. I'm not going to stress about this. I'm not going to be anxious about this. You are right about being aware. And a lot of clients I work with and a lot of listeners will also relate to this. A lot of them are aware that they have limiting beliefs and there's something blocking. But what is the first thing that they can do after that awareness that could help them unblock or remove that block?
So let me tell you a story before I answer your question. What would happen if you would put two people in the same room? The only difference is that one person is healthy, doesn't like to eat sweets, and the other one is addicted to sugar, and he's trying to quit the sugar. And as an experiment, you put a cake in front of those two people. You leave them be for 10 minutes. The person that is not addicted to sugar, it doesn't matter if he eats the cake or not. He can eat it, but he doesn't have to. And on the other hand, the person that is addicted yet wants to quit, he will be constantly fighting with himself. So once he will be back in those 10 minutes, he would be sweating like he just ran a marathon. He would be exhausted, yet nothing is done. He just fight himself for the 10 minutes, and that is a loss of energy. And that loss of energy is caused pretty much heat that is created by this friction that people call burnout. You can work long hours and don't have this phenomena if you are your own best friend. But if you constantly fight yourself, that's going to be a huge energy loss. So let's assume you've done those steps. You identified there is a limiting belief. Now, I would start with asking another question before we go into techniques, because some people are more logical. Then more logical explanation would benefit them best. If people are emotional, then emotional response would benefit them best. If people are more energy, then energy response would benefit them best. So let's say you have a limiting belief, I am not enough. So you can ask yourself a question, according to who? Or you can give an example that are contrary to this belief. When you have been enough, it's basically you're using your mind to serve you and to dissolve this program. You eject it from your computer called the brain. To do that, you need awareness. You need the questions that would dissolve this pattern. And some people do recommend installing new programs, which I'm not a fan of, because if you're enough, and that is enough, people try to overcompensate that. I need to do this and that. And it's not great because this is the same pattern, but with a different vector of energy. So you ask yourself questions according to who? Who said that? And that pattern dissolves slowly but surely. That is one method. The spleen itself from traditional Chinese medicine is responsible for digestive operation in the body. So it's not only the spleen from our Western understanding, but it's whole system. So it's your belly, it's your, most importantly, it's responsible for emotions, just like the self-esteem, just like anxious, just like morphine. Most people I work with, when they struggle with this pattern, they are very easy to gain weight. They have some skin problems like pimples. They have digestive problems because they carry that pattern, energy, or emotion all the time. And once they start to dissolve it, it seems that they don't need to do anything at all to lose weight, because how you do one thing impacts all the other things. So from spleen perspective, everything is energy. It seems from quantum perspective, you would see that the desk that this PC is on, or the computer that you're listening, or the computer that you're using to listen to this podcast is also energy. It's an energy that is vibrating so fast that it's causing you to believe it is standing still, but still it's electrons that are vibrating at a very high rate. The body of a human is no different, and there is always something going on within. And if you are able to make that energy go, to make that energy flow, that is enough. There are arts like Qigong, Tai Chi Chuan, even old Kung Fu or yoga, before it was imported to the West, was a very highly spiritual art. And it was all about releasing those limiting beliefs. Most importantly, if you are aware of that emotion, where it's located, just stay present with it. Let the body process it naturally. So you put your attention, you become aware of it like you would be aware of having a hand, and you stay with it. You don't allow yourself to be distracted by your environment, by your emotions, by your thoughts. You just stay with it, and nothing lasts forever. Sooner or later, it will dissolve itself, and you will no longer carry this baggage on your shoulders, and you would be a completely different man.
Can you help the listeners with a list of emotions and the body parts where they reside in so that they even know where to get started?
It's very different, and it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm gonna say that fear or trauma is located in kidneys or the feet. In someone's scenario, it might be completely different. But once you are aware of that sensation, you stay with it, sooner or later, some thoughts, the traumatic event will resurface, and you will immediately know what is that emotion, what caused that trauma, and by being aware, you can dissolve it. For example, as I mentioned, me in solar plexus, I didn't know that it was about me thinking about other people's opinions, but I stay with it. I was aware of it, and then I had thoughts resurfacing from my subconsciousness that I did care about what other people think about me. And to a degree, it made me cry a bit, but then I started laughing because once I started crying, I started to process that trauma and I was no longer carrying it. So this is something that I would actually recommend you go someone that has done it, help you do it. And I'm actually offering free consultations so you can identify where that is located, because it's always better to ask someone who has been on the same journey as you and can guide you. Obviously, all growth requires mistakes. Mistakes are bound to happen. In a way, if you want further grow, faster grow, do more mistakes and learn from them. So I cannot really say where it can be located for a particular person because it's very different. The last person I spoke with today, some traumatic experience relating to grief. Grief, sadness is emotion that impacts the lungs. But just because it started with the lung, it doesn't mean it will go somewhere else. And it impacted the spine, caused that person scoliosis. So she did walk differently because in the beginning there was an event, and I don't want to say too much. There was an event that caused her to believe she's different because she processed emotion differently from grief, from losing someone from the family. And other people did not have the same emotions as that person. So once that happened, the lungs did make the impact on the spine and caused that person to have scoliosis. And not only that, it caused that person to have serious issues as well. So just because it started in one place, it doesn't mean there won't be like a domino effect, a knockback effect, or a snowball effect. But only if you get to the bottom of it, to the root cause of the issue, you can fix it, you can solve it. Otherwise, it's like putting a band-aid on a broken knee. It might make you feel good for a few minutes because you're doing something with it, but it's only a feel-good procrastination. And there is a difference between procrastination and being lazy. Procrastination can be a fear itself of being successful, of being worthy. Being lazy is just an attitude. And procrastination also is heavily relied with doing things just for the sake of doing them. So you can feel good that you done something. So it's very complicated and it varies from person to person. Business people usually struggle with self-esteem, that they don't think they're worthy. So they go out to the wood so they can prove their worth. And then it's just luck. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Enough grind, had good teachers, had luck with good ideas, good funnels, good environment, good timing. But if you're not carrying that attitude, this pattern of the mind that you are not enough, and in fact, you are enough, then the timing doesn't matter, the techniques doesn't matter, everything doesn't matter, because if you have a strong enough why, the how will find you. Because if your message is I am enough, then the universe will affirm that and prove your mind. It's funny, like what's within is outside, but we somehow have this tendency not to look inward because it can cause pain. And people do not like to change. They like to be affirmed that their way of living is correct.
So, since this is a complicated process, tell us a little bit about your general process. Maybe use a client that you've worked with. Don't go into the specifics, but for those who are listening, who are realizing that, yeah, I have some trauma, I have some limiting beliefs, and they want to work with you, tell them a little bit about how you go about this. We talked about identification of perhaps the body part that is also being, that is the affected thing, but tell us your process from end to end, how you go about that.
It's very simple. A person limiting beliefs will manifest in the way they speak, the words they use. So I'm gonna do analysis of what they say. Like a good doctor always asks you before questions about your lifestyle so he can put a recipe. I do the same. I ask about the lifestyle, childhood, what he does, what the person wants to achieve. I also ask the person about the 6 things that person beliefs should do, and that immediately tells you about their limiting beliefs that you can then slowly start to dissolve by asking contact question. And this is the first part, I would say. Then the latter parts require trust between me and that person that I'm guiding to resolve this trauma. The second part is, as I mentioned, it's very easy, but yet actually it's very simple, yet very hard to implement because our brain wants to keep us away from experiencing pain. So it's going to do everything to distract you. So you're not conscious, you're not aware of that pain. You're going to run away from it in every possible direction. So the second part of the program is basically me reminding the person to be aware, asking that questions that will cause the person to be aware, and then slowly start to dissolve. There might be some dreams coming onto this part after you go to sleep. Usually it's something that your subconscious, because dreams itself is an part of your current reality. It's your subconsciousness trying to tell you something. And since we are bombarded with information from every direction, consciously we are not able to process that. It's the data of information that we have right now, it's mind-boggling, and it causes our brains itself to run on different electricity. We have those dreams that our subconscious is trying to tell us something, and it all happens a lot, especially when you release those blocks, that you would have dreams that will guide you as well, showing something that you're not able to confront yet, because subconsciousness in a way is very fragile. It doesn't understand logic. That's why we need this conscious mind where we use logic, where our mind operates in what is called the beta frequency to protect the subconsciousness. And then it is a process, because once you are aware there is a wound in your body, you need to clean the wound. It can heal. So the worst thing you can do is interfere with the process. But if you do not interfere with the process, the worst case scenario, it will leave a scar. But in this case, there won't be a scar at all.
So, dreams and the interpretation of the dreams and understanding how they're affecting you. Again, for those listening, is the best way to go about that is to work with an expert like yourself, or is there something that they can do on their own to get this process started?
I'm not sure if people can understand their dreams correctly, if they would know it consciously. Hence, this is why their unconsciousness brings that to people awareness. What I found out that when the pattern is big enough, it's going to manifest on different layers of life. If you feel you're not enough, you're going to eat very bad food to punish yourself. You're going to have very bad relationships. You're going to have issues with business and many others. It's like it is amplified to you so you can put attention on it. If you don't, it's going to go bigger and bigger. And people do many different things as a coping. Sexuality, meditation, personal development. It is all tools that are just running away from the challenge. You need to face the music, see the demons underneath the bed. Without that, I don't know what kind of meditation you would need to do to improve your life, but most likely it won't be good for you. If I would say to work with me, yes, but I'm not sure if I'm for everyone. There are countless people that do those kind of work, and it's about answering to yourself. Do you want to carry those limiting beliefs all the time? Do you want to be always victim of the environment and your surrounding? Or do you want to feel worthy and walk with your head held high? That would cause you to have completely different experiences. I would like to say that go do Tai Chi or go do Qigong, but before you learn those arts correctly, it's going to take you so many years. But still, obviously, there are huge benefits to learning those arts. What I would say you can do right here, right now, is a thing called rooting, which is in a way similar to what people call grounding, but not really. Rooting is an old martial arts basic, and I do mean basic. It's from yoga, qigong, kung fu, tai chi chuan. It literally means that you need to grab the floor, the soil, or the ground with your feet, and that will release the surplus of energy and keep the energy moving. Not only that, there are so many nerve endings in the foot that it will stimulate your well-being, massage the internal organs importance. That is something you can do right now, right here. You can also focus on the breathing. As I said, there are countless methods, and each method is not worse or better than the other. Who uses them, and it's about finding the one that works for you.
Interesting. Very interesting. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You obviously shared a little bit about the traumatic experiences that you had growing up. At some point, there was a realization that you need to work through this. And then you went to several masters and acquired the knowledge, not only to help yourself, but also shared this knowledge with others. How long did this take you?
It's a never-ending process. It still does. What I would say is I always knew that I was to guide, serve, teach, and help others. It's something that is deep. It's something that this internal voice always have been telling me. And all the masters that I have crossed path with said the same thing. But guess what? Since we highly sensitive people have this tendency to think that the right thing to do is not only the right thing to do, it is the only thing to do. We get this target on our backs that we're weak, fragile, and we're often abused because there are people in this world that will gladly stab you in the back just to get ahead. And that happened countless times to me when something that should go to me didn't go to me because I got abused. My approach changed. I didn't want to be a victim, but funny thing is, I was a victim and I was in this pattern. So nothing I could do while in this pattern could change it. And I got obsessed with money to prove my worth. And I started business. I had been a corporate manager. I started to invest in real estate. And guess what? It didn't solve the issue. Wherever you go, you're going to take yourself with you. So I found that I'm leading an existence full of grief and sadness, and it's just awful. And my remedy, I'm gonna get myself a promotion to head of a department in a big finance corporation. And I started to manifest that, and I started to get office. And what happened is I started to second guess my choice because, my God, corporations these days are nothing more than slavery. I would need to do what they tell me to do, think what they want me to think, and feel what they want me to feel. It's slavery, and you always have to stick up your butt. So this internal voice told me during meditation, I have something better, and all of that energy just dissolved. I started to have visions, or you could call that, of me being in Thailand, waking up early, going for a run, going to the temple to meditate, and then working and helping and serving people. And guess what? I'm in Thailand. I wake up early, go for a run, go to the temple to meditate, and I serve people.
You are definitely an inspiration, and your story of resilience, of being able to not only overcome the struggles and the trauma that you have gone through, but also the perseverance to be able to find the answers yourself is remarkable. A lot of people listening to this will resonate with this because everybody is suffering from something, but not everybody knows what to do. Some may not have the opportunity to travel the world and spend time with masters. And you've dedicated your entire life to learning about this and now are gracious enough to share with this. I will put your link in the bio for those who are listening to this and who want to learn more about this. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, Mark.